Hey guys, what's up? I'm Noah. This is Analog Resurgence, and today I'm doing the roll review for Kodak Gold 200 ISO 35mm color negative film. Kodak's Gold film is a big name in terms of available cheap options for shooting 35mm. It's also what's called a consumer film, which means that it is, again, cheap. It's also really easy to get your hands on a lot of the time. And I have absolutely nothing against consumer level films. I think they fill a really important niche, and I think there are times when it's worth it to shell out for the more pro films like Kodak's Portra and Ektar, or slide film like Velvia and Provia. But if you're new to shooting film and you just kind of want to shoot more film or learn and have some fun, and especially if you just want to get some color pictures and throw a roll in your SLR or your point and shoot camera or whatever you've got, then consumer films are perfect. And I've talked a lot about a bunch of these in the past as well. There's Kodak's Ultramax 400, Color Plus 200, Fuji's Superior 400, and Fuji C200. These are some fine films to shoot, and they definitely have their place for a lot of people. There's absolutely no judgment, there never should be. But today we're talking about Kodak Gold. Kodak Gold is a 200 ISO 35mm color negative film, and Gold and Ultramax also share a very similar lineage. They both date back to at least the 1980s. Earlier versions of these films existed as things like Kodacolor VRG and Kodacolor Gold, and then later just Gold, and now Gold and Ultramax. And even if you compare the two, they have very, very similar branding. So Gold is 200 ISO, Ultramax is 400 ISO. This is Kodak Gold 200. It's a big name, it's a popular film, it's been around for years. It's a 200 ISO film for color pictures, and again, it's great to throw in a camera and take out for just like a walk around. When we're looking at the colors, Gold is a warm film. I mean, it's called Gold, but it's not overwhelmingly warm all the time, and it does tend to bring out a classic family vacation, summer camp style look to your film photos, which honestly at this point is what a lot of people getting into film for the first time are actually looking for. This stuff is popular. There's a reason that you can buy Gold and Ultramax in both 24 exposure rolls or 36 exposure rolls, and even in 3-packs. Stock up, shoot film, and just have some fun. It's not a pro film like Ektar or Portra, so the grain on Gold is chunky and noticeable. Your images are gonna have contrast and saturation pretty much kind of like embedded into the image. This is consumer film. Pro film usually has finer grain and more manageable contrast and sometimes more muted colors. But of course that changes from film to film as well. Pro film also has more flexibility in terms of exposure, whereas Gold is less versatile. 200 ISO means it's great for outdoor stuff, but it's gonna lack a lot of versatility. So using it in lower light, especially indoors, it's best to have a camera on hand with a flash. Built-in flash on a point and shoot, or just a flash that you put on your SLR. I shot this roll of Gold in this Canon SLR, and I do that for the roll review so that I can overexpose and underexpose and show off, like, you know, a variety of stuff. But in general, Kodak Gold and all this stuff is very, very friendly for just using in point and shoot cameras. You know, you don't really have to get too crazy with it if you just want to be able to shoot a roll of this stuff. Now, if we stack Gold up against Ultramax, we see that it does have a finer grain, but both in general are pretty noticeably grainy films. Also, the higher ISO of Ultramax lends itself to a higher grain. Ultramax is maybe more neutral though when it comes to some of the colors when we're looking at the scene. At least in my experience, Gold tends to be warmer, while Ultramax does dial it back just a bit. Now, if we bring Color Plus into the mix, we see that it and Gold are very similar. Maybe Color Plus won't look as sharp sometimes, maybe one will come out with more contrast, but I do put Color Plus over Gold in terms of warmth, I think. So Color Plus is probably the warmest for colors, with Gold next, and then Ultramax. I mean, all three have contrast, saturation, and grain. Ultramax just has some added sensitivity with a 400 ISO, making it a little more versatile. Gold is fun and easy to shoot with, people look good, it's got a charm to it that some will love, and of course, somehow others will hate. And if we then bring in some Fuji to compare, it's a different story. Fuji's C200 maybe has some finer grain to it, but leans hard into greens and magentas in a way that Gold doesn't. In general, Fuji stuff is going to have a specific look that differs from Kodak stuff. Like the difference between Ultramax and Superior are going to be more apparent than the differences between Gold and Ultramax. I like how Gold looks. I think I enjoy Color Plus a little bit more, but that's just personal preference, so that's based on nothing. All these films are typically very, very similar in price as well, but that also kind of depends on where you're located and what's available to you. And a lot of the time for people getting into film and just trying to shoot more and more and learn more, it does tend to usually kind of come down to like what is the easiest to find and also what is the cheapest. But being aware of some of the subtle differences and just kind of the ins and outs of this stuff does make it easier to kind of decide what you want to shoot, what you want to try out, and also what's going to be worth your money in the long run, because film is not the cheapest thing. Long live consumer film is all I'm saying. Whether it's Kodak or Fuji, this stuff fills a niche, it's fun to shoot, it's great as an option for beginners, and not everybody needs to shoot Ektar or Portra or slide film or everything that is super popular and super hyped up all the time. I think that the moment when these cheaper staples start to disappear is the moment when film is really in trouble. Thank you guys so much for watching and checking this out as always, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you're watching the videos already, you're here, you may as well click the button. I don't know. That's just me. There's links in the description for Patreon. There's information for some links to buy gold if you're really looking to order stuff and you don't have any local resources. There's also links to Pro 8mm out in California if Super 8 and 16mm is your thing as well. Let me know down in the comments about your own experiences with Gold or Ultramax or any of this stuff, what you guys like to shoot, what you guys got started with shooting. Maybe I buy all the consumer films at once and I go through a checklist and I'll stack them up one against each other and you can see some really specific examples back to back. Anyways, thank you guys again, and I'll see you guys soon. Hey, lucky you, you made it this far. Ignore that I'm wearing a different shirt than I previously was, but I'm doing the Patreon shoutouts. Huge shout out and thank you to all of the following people, and these names are getting longer. Blake Moeller, Frederick Kulatunga, Jamie Maldonado, Abel Silva, BW, Ruby Alfaro, Andrew McFarland, Jonathan Hurd, Challian Christ, Edwin Goodwin, Ryan Peters, Nick Kosh, Emma Clyden, Taylor Brown, Travis Tobin, Larry O, Eric Machen Christensen, Sam Davidson, Tiago Almonca, Purple Doug, the Super 8 Skateboard Company, Sean Williams, Graham Sheffer, Chris Rohr, Natalie Etienne, Raul Sueto-Morris, Thomas Wibley, Matthew Ellers, Alex Onken, Henry and Megan, Dan Gross, Bingling Zhu, Juliana Lepedalina, Garuv Pai, Jeremy Lee Camp, Ian Farber, Taylor Cuzella, Caesar, Balasso Sue, Derek Konigsberg, David Piranelli, Colin Jackson, Chaz Alling, Bearded, Ramblings from Canada, Carson Fuller, Futigu, Abby Henderson, Benjamin MacArthur. And a huge shout out to the people who went above and beyond on the Patreon. In the past, I've been doing their credit on slide film. I haven't done it in a while because getting slide film developed takes a lot of time and it's been a little bit harder this year. Also, recently I shot some roll of some 320 Ektachrome stuff. I shot a couple rolls that were sent to me. Some of them had slide credits on it. One roll came out looking great. The other roll came out looking not great, and those contain the slide credits. So you know what? I'll put those up anyways, but I can't mount them. They look terrible. And that is Andrew McFarlane, Challian Christ, Taylor Brown, Super 8 Skateboard Company, David Piranelli, and Carson Fuller. Those are the Patreon shoutouts. All those people are amazing. Anybody who, again, wants to support the channel on Patreon, I never have any expectations for any of this stuff, but thank you for anybody who, you know, even considers it. There is a link down below. And again, as I mentioned before, I will see you guys soon.